finally time to wrap these up. Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. Disclaimer, everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Okay, the motions to suppress in the Idaho student murder case, we have taken about 2 weeks or so, maybe a little over 2 weeks to go through every single one of them with a few little updates in between. We are finally on the last one. We are going to be going over the motion to suppress the actual arrest warrant for the arrest of Bryan Kohberger. Now, while going through these motions to suppress, I will say that I am very confused about how the night of the arrest actually went down, because it sounds as if there were two different criminal complaints that were actually filed, one prior to them entering Bryan Kohberger's parents' residence, and then one after they removed him and brought him down to the police station that was about a half hour or so drive away from where they arrested him. And then they ended up filing that second one right before they took the cheek swab and searching his body for any physical evidence. I find that a bit strange, just for the simple fact that we have been hearing this whole time that they had no issue going in and snatching some trash can DNA and making a comparison without any sort of filings for anything like that. But then to swab the cheek of the person that they're claiming they're arresting for the actual homicides, they have to have something completely separate for that, just for the feds to have been the one to not only cheek swab him in Pennsylvania, but then to cheek swab him again along with Idaho once he got back to Moscow. So why the feds needed to swab him twice on top of stealing trash can DNA, I'm not really quite understanding why all of that was necessary, especially since we've been being told from the very beginning that all of the original DNA profile is gone. They didn't have enough to replicate anything in the profile that they actually used and uploaded into these databases where they got this information from. Well, the feds deleted it. So there's nothing they can actually compare it to besides these final results that were handed over to the Moscow Police Department. We can see literally none of the actual work. They're showing none of the work for the answer that they got to, but we're supposed to just believe it's true. Now, I will say about the motion to suppress for the arrest warrant, it's very short. There's no other details in it. We're going to go over the facts like we have in all of these, but we're not going to go over the arrest warrant in this video because we've done it a lot. We've done it whenever it originally came out. We went over it again in another video, and then after the fact, maybe like a month and a half, 2 months ago, probably, we did a live where we went back over the arrest warrant on a live and picked it apart based off of everything that we learned in the hearings whenever Payne and Mowry, the police officers that worked together to get the search warrants and to make the probable cause affidavit, when they took the stands and basically told us there was no organization to it, they have no actual proof of anything, and everything in the PCA is based on guessing. Even that diagram in the probable cause affidavit that has like a horseshoe trail that they're claiming Bryan Kohberger took that night is a guesstimate. None of it is facts. They have no actual facts. They cannot tell me point A to point B and actually show me, anyone, an actual path that they can trace and prove that it was Bryan Kohberger. They've said this in court. They've got none of it. That's just one of them. So we're going to go ahead and go through the document itself. It's 8 pages, mostly copy and paste, citations and policy talk. We are going to go ahead and read all of the little facts, even though it's the exact same timeline stuff that we've heard in all of these, just so we can say that we read through the document. So this is it. This is the motion to suppress the actual arrest warrant, and it just states that this is a motion for an order suppressing all evidence gathered by law enforcement as a result of his arrest. The issues are pretty much copy and paste, with the base issue for all of this being that they believe that Bryan Kohberger's DNA that was used to create the IgG result was obtained illegally, but the information for why the defense believes that and how they plan on proving it to the court has been submitted in sealed Frank's motion documentation. Now we're going to go straight to the facts. Due to the haphazard way in which law enforcement, including the prosecutor's office, has kept and disclosed records in this matter, the following is a rough statement of facts as best the defense can tell. Now, I'm actually really glad they're throwing the prosecutor's office in there, because I understand that, like, the investigative people obviously have no organizational skills whatsoever, and obviously the feds suck just as bad. But once it got to the actual prosecutor's office, the fact that they didn't bother to sit there and try to put anything together in any sort of chronological order to make the case make sense to them in their research of what they're trying to actually bring to the court screams volumes to me. They are literally working on the exact same mess that was handed to them, and they're handing it over to the defense in the exact same, like, cluster F of information. None of it is organized. It's not in chronological order. And we've been learning in all these court hearings just how much of it actually isn't evidence, and how much of everything that we've been hearing this entire time happens to just not even be true. So when it comes to this and how they can still say after 2 years, over 2 years, that a bunch of this is also on the prosecutor's fault, it is. Because when they got it, they should have sat down, put it in order, put it in chronological order, and did all of the organization that they needed to so that they could appropriately look at it as well. How am I supposed to sit here and believe that the state actually knows what they're talking about whenever we're seeing exactly how discombobulated everything is? They didn't even try to fix it for themselves before handing it off. And yeah, cool, it would have been doing the defense a favor, but it's also doing you and yourselves a favor as the prosecuting office to make sure that everything is lined up and in order. They don't even care. They don't even care about how sloppy it looks. On December 28th of 2022, Trooper Leary of Pennsylvania State Police became aware of the objective of arresting Mr. Kohberger via Moscow Police Corporal Payne. On December 29th of 2022 at 4:44 p.m. Eastern, a magistrate in Pennsylvania issued a search warrant for 119 Lambsden Drive, Chestnut Hill, Monroe County, the home of Mr. Kohberger's parents. On December 29th of 2022 at 2:22 p.m. Pacific, there's a lot of that, like, we're just not going to get into the numbers right now. The magistrate in this matter signed an arrest warrant for Mr. Kohberger in Latah County. The affidavit for the warrant was signed by Moscow Police Department Corporal Payne. The basic facts Corporal Payne used to support the arrest are discussed in detail in a separately filed motion, which is the sealed information that was put into the office by hand, that then the judge came back and said, you've got over 2,000 pages of a bunch of fluff. You need to cut it down and give me the specifics, because I'm not wading through all of this to get to the facts, which I agree with, but I don't agree that he only gave them like 2 actual business days. It was filed super late on what I think was like Friday, something like that. And so he gave them until Tuesday. At 2:43 p.m. Pacific on December 29th of 22, a criminal complaint and probable cause order were filed in this matter. At 10 p.m. Eastern, Pennsylvania SWAT began preparations to arrest Mr. Kohberger. Despite days of constant FBI surveillance, Pennsylvania law enforcement did their own surveillance starting at 11:15 p.m. Eastern. And despite the fact that days of constant FBI surveillance showed Mr. Kohberger was unarmed, intended to go for runs around his parents' neighborhood, police decided that forcefully entering Mr. Kohberger's parents' home was the best option. Now, I have my opinion on that, and I kind of feel like it was a way that they could get into the house. Because I've questioned, like, okay, why didn't y'all just let him take his run one day, and when he got back to, like, the driveway, go ahead and arrest him then? After he'd been on a run, he was a little bit tired, it's out in the open, you're not having to go in the middle of the night and give his parents halfway heart attacks and destroy the house, because they destroyed the house. They broke pieces of the home in complete just disrespect and ridiculousness, in my opinion, whenever he was out in the open, and it could have been fine. A friend of mine who knows a lot about this kind of stuff believes that they did this in order to facilitate something possibly happening that they could then use as an excuse later for why he couldn't actually be brought to court. You know, something Kopaka related. Yeah, which is a big possibility, and they probably just thought maybe he was going to fight back. Maybe they thought that he was going to have a weapon. Maybe that's why they went in whenever they went in with him being in the kitchen. Maybe they thought that he was going to grab a knife and fight them back, and he didn't. Maybe their plan went wrong. Who really knows anymore? All I know is that the way that they did this with all of their surveillance of him, proving how he was unarmed and they could have taken him pretty much at like any time. I mean, we see celebrities get taken in public all the time and it's like no big deal. They just walk away, no problem. People that are a whole lot more dangerous than what Mr. Kohberger might actually be, okay, have been taken a lot less hostile than this. And if they were really following him, like I said, if they were really watching everything he was doing for weeks and they could see that he was just by himself at all the time, just by himself on runs, completely by himself with nothing to stop them from taking him in. They either were trying to facilitate something actually bad happening, or to me, they were using it as an excuse to get in the house, because we have to remember there's like almost 3 hours in between them entering the house before they end up taking him away and doing that second criminal complaint and then doing the cheek swab. That's a lot of time. On December 30th, 2022, at 1:14 a.m. Eastern, Pennsylvania SWAT raided Mr. Kohberger's parents' home. During the raid, law enforcement broke the door of the home, held the entire family at gunpoint, and seized Mr. Kohberger. Mr. Kohberger made statements to his arresting officers. He was transported to a police station in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and made statements during transport. At the station, Mr. Kohberger was processed, during which police collected information about his person. Finally, during interrogation, before requesting an attorney, Mr. Kohberger made statements to interrogators from the Idaho State Police and the Moscow Police Department. At 4 a.m. Eastern on December 30th, Pennsylvania State Police filed a criminal complaint against Mr. Kohberger. You see what I mean? There's multiple. Now, I don't understand what this is all about and why they haven't fixed this yet. This is causing me issues, because this is not supposed to be December 30th of 2023. We know this is supposed to be December 30th of 2022. Now, this is like the 5th freaking document that they have done this in. So are they so freaking careless? Seriously? This is a man's life at stake. And they can't even make sure that they don't repeat the same mistake 5 times over, 6 times over. Do better. Now, this is where they go through the exact same citations, talking about the exact same policies that they do in every single one of them. You know, they copy and paste mistakes, and they are copying and pasting their pretty much entire argument all the way through, literally all the way through, down to the fact that there's motions filing that were filed separately. It's basically all the exact same stuff. Now, I'm not going to go through these because, like I said, we've done it extensively on this channel. We've done it extensively. And anything and everything that we could say is wrong in the probable cause warrants are going to be over in those other videos. So I'll go ahead and link those, including the live where we went back through it, in the description box. But I want to show you guys, okay, this is the one from Brett Payne. We see that it's 18 pages, and this is the one that the public was given. But this is also not the original. According to everything that we are understanding, the one from Blaker, this one would be the original one. Now, I'm not really quite sure how many pages Blaker's is, but it's a lot longer from what I remember. So let me just go ahead and count real quick. 1, 2, oh, it's at the bottom. Let's just go down. So I'm pretty positive that it's bigger and it has more details in it, but it's like technical data. Okay, see? Yeah. We are way past it. 31 pages. So we've extensively gone over this one. I'm going to go ahead and do a video of this one because I have not done a video reading through this probable cause order. So I guess I probably should do that just so we can have them both on the channel. And then after we do that one, I'll go in and do the compare and contrasting, because obviously his is almost double the length. So that means that Payne went in and basically cherry picked what he wanted to in order to, I guess, shorten this one in order to be given to the public, which is most likely why this is the redacted version. But I don't know why they couldn't have just gone in and redacted the version from Blaker. Why did we have to have somebody else come in and put their name on it after they got to pick what they wanted from it? Even training experience and regular experience are copy and pasted in this PCA, and you cannot do that. You were trained differently. You have different experiences. Why that's even allowed is beyond me, but apparently that's common practice because they did it so willingly and so openly in such a high profile case that I guess they just didn't think it mattered. And I guess maybe this is common practice, which is pretty sad. But everything in these warrants we've already picked apart. They have told us in court there's no organization to any of it. When they canvassed, they didn't really canvass out too much because there's plenty of sororities and fraternities that are right there within that like 1 mile radius of King Road that never even got a knock at the door. We've known that for a really long time. On top of that, Payne literally went in court and said that this horseshoe thing they got going on here, where they are claiming this is where Bryan went, was just an estimate, was just a huge guess based off of the data that he had in front of them, that he didn't even actually look at himself. The way that he described how he got his information was him standing up, walking across the building to talk to some federal agent that happened to also be in the building. Then on his way back, stopping, getting coffee, saying hi to Marge over in the mailroom, and then sitting down and listening to whatever the voices in his head are telling him the guy actually said, and then trying to reinterpret it down through his fingertips. But if you don't have the experience, the knowledge, the know-how, the education, then nothing that man said is sticking in the other man's head in order for him to then play a game of telephone on the keyboard. That's a huge problem. And if that's how all of these cases are handled, then they probably all need to be relooked at. We also heard how some of the camera footage wasn't Bryan's car, but also some of it was in daylight hours. So completely useless time frame on top of being just generally useless. And then something else that Syray made very clear was that there was nothing to show that Bryan Kohberger was even in the area of King Road at the time. Nothing is there to prove that. Now, I know there's been some sort of rumor going on a smaller channel that brought up the fact that Syray might have actually walked away from the Bryan Kohberger case. I've seen no official proof of that. The second it is official, if it is the truth, you know this channel will be out here discussing it because I will be shocked and I will be questioning things. But so far, that's just something that some channel said that I've had a couple of comments sprinkling here and there about, that I have gone in and tried to find some sort of legitimacy to that I cannot. So I don't feel like Syray is someone who would just walk away. I feel like if there's something else here, then he would then ask to then testify the opposite. I feel like when he said in court that he wants to hold on to his right to change his opinion, then that means that if need be, he will change his opinion. I don't feel like he would just walk away from it and just leave it like that without, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like he would just walk away and leave this open-ended. I feel like he would then come in and be like, okay, well, I've received some new information. The defense was given new discovery. I was then given it to look at, or there's been new information that's come to light that I didn't know before, that I didn't get to see before whenever I was looking at it, and now this is my opinion. I don't feel like he would just walk away like that unless he was told to just shut up and leave it alone. Who knows? But I just don't take anything just anybody says too seriously, especially in stuff like this where there's a gag order. Okay, he would still be in great violation of that gag order if he had walked away from the case and then all of a sudden he's out here talking to these YouTubers about it. Yeah, he would still be in a lot of trouble for that. That's definitely a violation and something that he definitely had to sign acknowledgement of. But as for the probable cause warrant itself, it is more than clear that they were handed, Moscow was handed this name in a family tree and then told to make their case. And they went in and they tried to find any and everything they possibly could, which is why they're going back into Bryan Kohberger's history back until 2016. Because they need enough circumstantial boo-boo to try to make it look like they actually knew what they were doing. But in reality, Moscow didn't investigate a damn thing. Moscow just allowed there to be 3 unidentified male DNAs just left wandering up in the ether while the freaking house got destroyed. In the name of what? In the name of what? Bringing healing and emotional completeness to a neighborhood that was okay with the guys peeing on the house in the middle of the night. This was not a campus tragedy. This happened off campus. The university had no right to control anything. They did it for a reason, in my opinion, and it had nothing to do with healing. They can miss me with that bullshit. 51 terabytes of trash is basically what they have. To sit there and say that they have 51 terabytes of data, yet they can't give us any actual proof that they actually know that it was Bryan Kohberger's car. They can't say, well, we finally saw on this footage at this time frame from this cross street the license plate of the vehicle that we were looking for and it matches. They can't do that. They can't show us where they've been able to enhance it enough to where they could actually see Bryan Kohberger through the window in any way, shape, or form. They can't do that either. So we're going to tighten up the timeline and put as much detail into it as possible. And then we're going to start going through the theories. And then after we go through the theories, we'll go ahead and start going through the two PCAs. We're going to do a comparison and a contrast of Payne's and Blaker's so that you guys can see just how much of it was copy and pasted. But one of the big factors I want you guys to remember when it comes to these two PCAs is that there is a very distinct difference when it comes to Xana and Ethan's timeline in both of these. What Blaker's says is a bit different than what Payne's says. And whenever you think about the big picture and about how secretive they've been about Xana and Ethan's timeline, the difference to me is a big deal. So keep that in mind for future videos. But for now, let me know what you guys think so far. Now that we have the public information for these motions to suppress, knowing that there's more intricate details that are being filed separately and sealed, do you think that any of these actually have a leg to stand on? If you can take away the fact that the defense is claiming that Bryan Kohberger's DNA was obtained illegally for the IgG search, do you think that any of these have their own legs to stand on in the sub-fights that are listed? Or are we really all just sort of waiting for them to lay out the timeline for how they believe that his DNA was actually obtained illegally? I cannot wait for that. I hope that whenever they do have a hearing about that they do have it publicly so that we can get some information, because how else are we supposed to know if the facts are being presented correctly? One other thing that we did see in Delphi is that the jury was pretty much lied to, in my opinion, because they weren't given the full story. They weren't even shown everything that the state had collected when it comes to evidence and all the work that they had actually done. And everything in the Franks motion that came to light based on the state's actual footwork in investigating what happened to Abby and Libby, all of that was suppressed because the defense actually wanted to talk about it at the trial. So what if the same situation happens here? What if everything that they produce is based off of everything that they received from the state, from the feds, from the evidence, and then come trial, none of that's even allowed in court because it works against the state? I have no faith whatsoever in the justice system whatsoever. And it has nothing to do with my own personal situation that I'm having to deal with on this end. Look at what's happening everywhere. No matter how heinous the crime, no matter how ridiculous, no matter how much it sounds like something that you couldn't even write in Hollywood, people are getting slaps on the wrist. People are getting thrown in prison for things they didn't even do. We are seeing such dramatic spectrums of things and nothing meeting in the middle, nothing happening that's making anything any better, nothing that's stopping insanity, just things that keep elevating it. It's a dangerous world out there. You guys need to be super, super safe, super, super careful. Don't be paranoid and hyper vigilant. Just make sure that you're living your life carefully, but just make sure that you're living it. But yeah, that's it. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know all the things. Just lay it on me down in the comments. If you like the way that I present this information and give my opinion, please don't forget to leave a like on the way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. And please don't forget to make sure that your notification bell is set to all so you don't miss any of my rants, reviews, reactions, updates, or deep dives. See y'all.